Welcome to a special interview on the Ox Court podcast. I am joined by former Alabama quarterback David Cornwell. David, thank you for coming on such short notice. I know it's been kind of a crazy couple of hours on social media for you, but I appreciate you taking the time for me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Look forward to sharing a few stories, shedding some light on other situations and going from there.
Yeah, so we'll kind of just start with the start at Alabama. So you were a pretty big deal coming out of high school. You were the number one player coming out of Oklahoma, and I'm surprised that Oklahoma didn't really make your list. It had like Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn. I think I saw Kansas on there for a little bit. Was there a reason you decided not to go to like Oklahoma State or Oklahoma?
Yeah, that was a big, so my real top three was Alabama, Virginia Tech, and Tennessee, and it was all just based on coaches. Unfortunately, I lost Coach Nussmeier before I even got there. But yeah, I mean, the Oklahoma thing, they had their guys in sophomore year, so that's a big question when I went back there. And everyone's, why don't you go to Oklahoma? Well, they had to commit since sophomore year, so we touched base and we talked. It was a respectful thing, but they knew they had their guy. I was closer with Oklahoma State, and if they didn't change coaches from Coach Monken to I forget the guy that came in there, but he was a first-time OC, and I just didn't feel very comfortable with that. And also, people that know me is I'm not like a stay close to home because it's comfortable kind of guy. I like to get out there, I like to try new things, like to challenge myself, new experiences, and that was the best part about Bama was Coach Saban challenge us, come down, compete. You're having everyone else there is the best of their position in the country, and that's what made it a special culture. And the winners rose to the top, and the rest of us kind of fell somewhere in between.
Now, did you have any funny recruiting stories, like checking out all these schools, doing the Elite 11 camps? Like, were some stories that were like, all right, this is a little out there for me?
Yeah, it's funny. I guess everyone probably forgot about this, but in the middle of our recruiting trail was those rumors that Saban was going to go to Texas. And, at the time, like, you just really didn't know. You're like, there's no way he'd leave for Texas. But in the back of your mind, you're like, but he could. And it's funny, we all we had an early group of commits, and I think it was like 7 of us. We had a group chat, or we reached out to each other on social media, and we kind of deemed Cam Robinson as the leader of us to go and ask Coach Saban. Because we were all I wouldn't say scared, but like none of us wanted to ask that question.
Yeah.
We're like, Cam, you got to ask this for us. And sure enough, he's like, all right, fine, I'll go do it. He's a very intimidating, large man, and he went in there and waited for his meeting, and then came out. He's like, he ain't leaving. He never lied to me before. He ain't leaving. We're like, okay, we're good. So I guess that'd be a funny recruiting story from the past.
Speaking of Coach Saban, obviously him being the GOAT, he's known for being very expressive with his feelings sometimes, especially on the practice field, in the field. Have you ever been Sabaned? Or if you haven't, what's the worst you've ever seen someone get it from him?
I mean, that was my whole career, was scout team field, so that was the nice part is, at first you're like, I don't want to be on the scout team field. And then by my third year, I kind of been injured enough to know, like, this is where I'm going to be until I transfer. So I just kind of took it to heart, but that's like, you kind of learn what he wants and you learn how to operate, and there's a certain standard he expects. And if he's yelling at you, it's actually a good thing because he cares about you. When he stops yelling and kind of turns his shoulder on you, that's when this is not as good of a situation. And that's what a lot of young guys kind of either figure out too late or figure out right on time and be really good players. But yeah, I mean, I mean, there's too many accounts just screaming at me. You get blamed for anything bad that goes happen on the scout field. So, I mean, just kind of got to a point of like, yeah, I just know it's going to happen. Respect it. You're a great coach, and is what it is.
I still can't imagine what it's like getting yelled at by him. But I mean, like, I guess if it happens so many times, you're just like whatever. What was worse, getting yelled at by Saban or getting yelled at by Scott Cochran?
Saban, you kind of knew he couldn't touch you. Cochran, you're kind of like, sometimes you yell and you'd be like, this guy might knock me out. He obviously never laid hands on you, but there was like kind of like man, this guy could really just fly off the handle one of these times. You knew Coach Saban wouldn't.
Yeah.
You kind of knew you're protected. He's never going to like lay hands on you. But Scott sometimes would just get and you'd be like, this guy might swing on me, But all the players had a great relationship with Coach Cochran. From what I heard from the new guys, the new strength coaches are doing a phenomenal job, and they all really love and appreciate the work they've been doing. Honestly, I didn't get to work with them, but I was really close with Coach Cochran. He did a lot for us off the field and through those workouts, and really was kind of like that, kind of the go-between between the coaches and the players, and just did a really good job maneuvering that. So, yeah.
So you came in with Cochran, but you came in with a pretty loaded recruiting class, and your roommate was actually a fan favorite, everyone's crazy Tony Brown. Hunter Renfro's arch enemy. What was that like having Tony as a roommate?
I mean, I got tons and tons of stories that are probably more suited for a long dinner or a bar room. Obviously, I'm not going to put those on the internet as respect to him. But what I will say about Tony is he was an incredibly smart man. He worked hard when he wanted to, and he worked hard behind the scenes. Wasn't a big posting guy, and he just probably one of the most incredible athletes I've ever seen in real life. And just the way he could run, it was nuts. I mean, he worked really hard outside of football as well. That's what a lot of people probably don't realize. Like we do have our stories. We all went through our growing times. There's stories I have from Bama that I'm sure people could share that it's just like, you're all just kind of growing up. And, I haven't seen Tony for 4 or 5 years, but, I would just hope that he's matured and become, great football player and a great person off the field because he really had the ability to do that. So I hope he capitalized on that.
I got you, man. Well, no, I mean, he's always going to be a crowd favorite for everybody, and whatever he's doing with the NFL. So you got the chance to be in the locker room with a guy named Jalen Hurts, and you got to see him freshman year up close against USC. Did you think he was going to be as good as he was prior to that game?
No clue. That was a nice thing is I got to see Jalen's progression. So we were roommates on game days in the hotel, and he carried a confidence about him that I had no idea where he got that from, and not in a bad way, and in a way that what I've learned through football is just that all great athletes have is this aura and this confidence. And he carried it as a freshman. I'm like, where'd you getting this from? Like you're not going to play. It's your freshman. We know the drill. And then, USC game hit. Whatever happened. Next thing I know, Jalen's running on the field with his helmet. I'm like, well, that wasn't in the plan that anyone on our side knew. We were all like shocked. We're looking at like, what is going on? And sure enough, he just kind of kept finding ways to win. And that's what it was on. I still remember his first A-Day too. He went in versus the threes, and you kind of looked up and you're like, wait, this guy scrambled for like 157 yards and a touchdown. And he did that in scrimmages too. And you're just like, where did these stats come from? And he just, that was my favorite part about Jalen is, he came in with that confidence and that belief in himself. And then through his progression at Bama, carry that and to be a really good football player. And I think if you know anything about quarterbacks, you'll watch Jalen his first year and his last year, and especially through Oklahoma and just how he became a passer. But he always had that leadership. And that's one thing probably for young quarterbacks is having that confidence, that leadership can take you a lot of places, even that your ability can't, match at the start, but you grow into it. And that's the awesome part of it.
Yeah, Jalen came in for a certain quarterback who I kind of want to touch on now, who we've kind of seen a little bit on social media. His name's Blake Barnett. And I just kind of want to know what is y'all's relationship, or did you guys have one in college, or it seems like there's kind of a tale of two stories going on right now.
Yeah. So, I think you guys, from a distance, it probably looks worse than it is. So here's the thing. The Bama quarterback room is highly, highly competitive, as you can imagine. Yep. One guy plays. Every guy's a 5-star, except for Jalen. And you're like the best coming in. Everyone in that room knows one person's going to play. So there's a secret, like, I don't like you, we don't like each other, but we kind of have to find a middle ground until someone's established. So it's really competitive, especially in the spring. You're not going out together. Nothing's really going on. And then fall camp hits, you're definitely not, then you're really going for throats. And then once the starter's kind of established, you guys settle into like a dynamic of like, okay, that guy's the starter, he's the backup, and we're all, like scout team or third or fourth string guys. So we're all going to hang out, have fun. That's how it used to be when I was there. Obviously, I can't speak on anything else, but like it's with anything. One guy plays. So, there's always a love-hate relationship. I had the same thing with Cooper Bateman. We were competing. Then we both knew, like, okay, Cochran's the guy or Jalen's the guy, and we're good buds, and that's he's kind of figured out. Whereas, can't really speak for play. Like to me, it's still all love. I'm not like I don't hate the guy. I really don't hate anyone. I just we don't mesh. We had different styles. You had the California social media thing, and I just felt like I was more of a, Oklahoma keep it real. Like don't do that or don't do things. And I guess when you're trying to keep a certain image or something that can go against that. So I just put it out there and kind of threw some bait out there. Honestly, it was late at night. It was just kind of, threw the bait out, and he took it and tweeted back at me, and just, we had a text exchange. I think it went well. I'm fine with where we're at. I can't speak on him. I can guarantee he's not going to go on any show or podcast and talk about it, because he claims to not want to get involved in social media, but tweets all the time. But yeah, it just is what it is, I guess.
So, as a competitor standpoint, did you think you were a better quarterback than Blake was?
Here's the thing. I'd love to talk about my career, but it is what I tweeted. It's riddled with injuries. I came in with a torn ACL that I tore in college. I played with a completely broken foot my entire time at Bama that most people had no idea about. I've spent maybe 90 days of my football career healthy, and I've come to terms with that. I also don't make excuses. I also know that, I would get nervous in certain situations, not perform the way I wanted to, and never really figure that out. And that's where my playing time and lack of in high school and college caught up with me. And, I'm well aware of where my career's at. I'm not here to fight and say I was better than I was. It was a 5-star bust, and I'm fine with that. You move on in life, and I got another 6 years to go to do a bunch of other things. But, I'm not going to sit here and hang on to the past or, say I was wrong or this or that. It is what it is. That's life. How many of these Bama fans, things don't go according to them in life, or according to their plan in life. And what do? You can either sit around and complain about it, or you can find a different route. And that's, once I figured out football wasn't for me, I did my best and worked the hardest and took the life lesson from that experience and put them into other things, because football only lasts, if you're lucky, until you're 30 at best for a lot of guys. And then you have your Pat Mahomes and guys like that. There's not very many of those guys. So, sometimes you just need to manage expectations.
No, major respect for that, for you realizing that and coming to terms. Are you into coaching now, or what are you doing now that your football career is over?
Yeah, I mean, so I did I had so many private quarterback lessons. I did that for a little bit and really enjoyed kind of giving back to the community. Not for the money, no one's really doing that, getting rich. It was just nice to see a younger generation come up, and but that just started eating into my professional goals and ambition. Right now I enjoy what I do with the stock market. I get to, to me, that's the biggest stage in the world. Everyone wants to, play in that ball game, and you have money all over the world coming and competing there. And it's almost impossible to figure out, which is nice. I like really long challenges that same way as playing quarterback. Tom Brady at whatever, 44, 42, I don't know what his age is, still competing and still trying to get better each day. And that's why it was such a fun mission. And then just transplanting that into real life is, there's a journey and a mission there to be the best. And, you probably fall short of that, but every day is a pursuit of that. That's why you wake up early. That's why you grind, you take the lessons. And I think that's the thing that after leaving Bama, you realize is, even if it didn't work out as a player, there's so many things they taught you and you can learn. And if you just took those instead of the sour grapes of like, I didn't play or this or that, you're just kind of robbing yourself of that lesson. Like, why go through the pain and then not learn something from it and take it and move on? And if you don't do that, then I'm sorry.
No, I mean, that's great. That's great advice. I'm glad you're doing well. You're doing the whole financial and the stock market. I kind of want to end on this question though. Just it's kind of a fun one to end on, since you got to play with some really good Bama quarterbacks. Who is the best Bama quarterback of all time? You can pick through any of them, but like if you had to just put your money on one guy, past or present, who you going?
Wow. I will say that I thought I'm not willing to name an all-time Bama great. I will give you this story though, and it'll meet you somewhere in between. I remember it was probably a couple months before I transferred, and Tua came up for like a throwing session or something. I think it was like a camp or something. They have that Nick Saban football camp. I remember watching him throw, and I was like, I couldn't have walked the ball and placed it in a better spot than he put it every single time and never missed. I don't think I watched a single miss on that entire throwing session, and I was just amazed. I was like, wow, I've just never seen that. I've seen a lot of stuff as a quarterback, but when Tua came out there in his first throwing session, which as a high schooler you should be nervous, you should be missing, you should be everything, and he wasn't. So yeah, it's tough to name. You know, I'm still cool with Mac Jones. You know, we kind of grew up in the same private quarterback training tree. You know, he's got probably the best statistical season and a lot of just a really, really cool story, a really great guy. I'm glad that everything's going well for him. But just from like a pure best workout I've ever seen was Tua senior year.
Okay, so I kind of see where your answer's leaning. I'm a big Mac guy, so that's my dude. Anyone who knows me, listens to the show, knows that I'm a big Mac Jones guy. But look, David, I appreciate everything, man. I appreciate you coming on the show, giving us some of your time. I wish you nothing but the best, and roll Tide.
All right, thank you, appreciate you.